Tonight, I review the plastic fantastic, the Canon EF 70 to 300mm f4 to 5.6 IS II USM with 17 elements and 12 groups and 9 aperture blades. Is this lens good? Let's find out. This is the Canon EF 70 to 300mm f4 to 5.6 IS II USM, or the plastic fantastic as I call it. Now, as the name suggests, this lens body is mostly plastic. However, the lens mount is constructed out of metal, which is nice. Although the lens has several intriguing capabilities, I seldom, if ever, utilize them. The first item that is nice but not really practical is the LCD panel that shows what length you are zoomed at. I can understand if you're using a monitor and you need to know where you are, but if you're shooting photos, it's sort of pointless. Then there's the measurement of how the lens is moving for the lens stabilization, which is great, but I don't see myself using it. The last one, which displays your lens depth of field at different magnification levels, it is great, but why would I use it? I know if I zoom, the depth of field will be shallower. These gimmicks seem good, but I'm not sure why they were introduced. I can see how they might be able to be used if you're using an external monitor, but still, even then, I'm not sure why most of them would be used for. Then there's the zoom lock that keeps the lens at 70mm. Once again, I'm not sure why this exists, perhaps to prevent the lens from stretching during travel. Unfortunately, you cannot set the zoom lock to 300, which is a shame because I would like it, especially while working with the highest zoom. Then there's the manual focus switch, which I don't like because I have a habit of quickly manually focusing to get the lens where it should be when using autofocus. But this lens, you can turn that manual focus ring until you sweat like you're running on a treadmill, but it won't manual focus or change focus. You have to switch it to manual focus. So that is a bit of a downer for me. You would think there is nothing I like about this lens. Not so. Lens stabilization. This lens has some really decent lens stabilization, which is great to utilize, especially when zooming out to its maximum focal length. When combined with IBIS, this lens is very steady for video shooting. You would think that all of this lens's flaws, including its plastic build, strange functions you'll probably never ever use, and the absence of manual focus while autofocusing, that I would have regretted purchasing this lens and I would not recommend it. Yet, I refer to this lens as the plastic fantastic. That's because this lens, it shines with photography. Most of the time. You would assume that a 70 to 300mm lens could only shoot from about 5 blocks away, yet it can really focus very close. Like the close focus at 70mm is approximately 60 centimeters or 23 inches. When zoomed out at 300mm, it is approximately 1 meter or 1 yard. Which, if you consider how close you can focus with a massive zoom lens, that is not bad. Optically, the lens performs best at 70mm and gradually gets worse as you zoom out, but I want to emphasize that while it's sharpest at 70mm, it's still quite capable at 300mm. When zooming close, you lose some sharpness, but that's the price of using non-L glass. However, I used the plastic fantastic on my Canon 6D. Optically, the lens is at its best when shooting at 70mm and getting progressively worse when zooming out. I did originally suspect I took this photo at 70mm, but looking at the EXIF data, this is taken at 300mm. This lens can be incredibly sharp and capture insane details if your subject is close enough. To give you an idea, this is a 100% crop of our cat I took at 300mm. For a zoom lens, that is crazy sharp. There is some bokeh when you're up close to your subject and at 300mm. I've mostly been using this lens for bird photography, and it does work for bird photography, but you need to keep in mind the following. This lens is only good if you're close enough. This is one of the big problems for me with this lens. It does work, and when it works, it's great. But for bird photography, when the birds are far away, it gets kind of soft and loses details. If you're wondering how far away, well, quite far away. Almost all of the photos I took were from about 4 to 6 meters away from each bird, or 4 to 6 yards away, and I think the lens loses focus quality at about 10 meters or 10 yards away. Also, using this lens on a full frame sensor, you can get some nice looking bokeh effects, especially with the foreground items in your shot. Then the last thing, and unfortunately it's a bit of a doozy. Autofocus. I'm using the Fringer FX adapter on a Fuji XT5, and I had some trouble with the lens hitting autofocus. I originally thought this was just Fuji, well, being Fuji and problems with their focus and tracking, but using the lens on my Canon 6D, using single dot focusing, it struggles to find focus, especially at 300mm. I don't know if it's just a me problem, but considering I'm having the same problem on two different cameras, it's not a good look. But on the Canon, the autofocus is pretty snappy, so I suspect it might just be Fuji and their wonderful autofocus again. Now, I am not saying this lens is not usable. Far from it. It is the plastic fantastic for a reason. But keep that in mind, when using it, there is sometimes problems with the focus. Lastly, video. I mentioned the lens has inbuilt stabilization, and I tested it with my Fuji XT5. And I'm genuinely impressed by the combination of IBIS and lens stabilization. I managed to get some great video clips of birds using this setup. I am honest, I'm a photographer first, videographer second, but this setup does make me want to maybe try and capture some birding videos, especially when the summer hits, as currently it's just pigeons wherever I go. In summary, the Canon 70 to 300mm f4 to f5.6 IS II USM. Who would I recommend it to? I would not recommend it for portrait photography. This is not a portrait lens, it's way too slow for that. You can take portraits of people taken at wide open, but if you're interested in portrait photography, there is better options out there. But if you're walking around and you want to take a portrait, sure, you can take one in a pinch. I would recommend it to people who are interested in wildlife, bird or sport photography, but don't want to take out a bank loan for a house to buy a fast Super Telephoto Prime or a fast Super Telephoto Zoom. The lens has problems, but when it works beautifully. I can also see myself recommending this lens if you're looking for a telephoto zoom for video. The combined IBIS and lens stabilization makes this lens great for this. In a world of way too many 70 to 300mm lenses, Canon made something special in this last swan song of the old EF lineup of lenses. And that is why this lens is the plastic fantastic. The body is plastic, but the photos and videos you can take, it's fantastic. And on that note, it's time to end. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Good night.